Joaquin Phoenix. His very name conjures images of raw intensity, transformative acting, and a mercurial presence that both captivates and unsettles. While the world witnessed his electrifying performance in Joker and marveled at the depth he brought to her, few realized just how tumultuous and extraordinary his journey has been. Beneath the accolades, the viral acceptance speeches, and the haunting roles lies a story so dramatic, so turbulent, that it could very well redefine everything you thought you knew about this enigmatic star. In this in-depth narrative, we will explore the hidden chapters of Joaquin Phoenix's life, from his early struggles to the moment he risked everything in pursuit of authenticity. Prepare yourself for a revelation that might just leave you questioning the very nature of stardom. From the start, Joaquin's life seemed destined to be different. Born in Puerto Rico to parents who lived by a set of ideals that challenged mainstream norms, he was surrounded by music, art, and the spirit of constant movement. Long before he stepped in front of a movie camera, he was traveling with his siblings, busking on street corners, and performing for spare change. This was not a life of convenience, but one of adaptability. It was also a life brimming with creativity. Even as a child, Joaquin possessed a glint in his eye that hinted at profound emotional depths. He was perpetually curious, always observing, always silent until he had something meaningful to say. Hollywood soon became a beacon for the Phoenix siblings. Their talent was undeniable, and casting agents noticed a spark in each of them. Joaquin, who at one point even changed his name temporarily to Leaf in a bid to match the nature-themed monikers of his brother and sisters, proved to be a child performer unlike any other. He had an instinctive ability to inhabit roles well beyond his years. Yet, the industry into which he stepped was rife with complications. Producers often sought to pigeonhole young actors into specific archetypes, and Joaquin's odd blend of intensity and vulnerability made him challenging to categorize. As he entered adolescence, the pressure mounted. Rumors circulated that, behind the scenes, he was torn between the desire to continue acting and a longing for anonymity. He had a reputation for being fiercely protective of his privacy, even when he was still a teenager. Directors who worked with him remarked on his profound focus, noting that the typical distractions of youth did not seem to faze him. He immersed himself in each role, studying motivations, subtext, and emotional undercurrents more deeply than most adults. The intensity of his craft made him stand out, but it also caused him to wrestle with self-doubt. Could such passion be sustained, or was he risking his mental well-being by diving so deeply into each character? In his early 20s, Joaquin faced a wrenching personal tragedy. The loss he experienced shook the foundation of his world, leaving an ache that would later inform many of his most haunting performances. Hollywood, notoriously fixated on success stories, largely overlooked the emotional toll this trauma exacted. Publicly, he was expected to carry on with the next audition, the next press tour, the next chance at stardom. Yet inwardly, he was grappling with unimaginable pain. Some speculated this pain drove him to develop an almost supernatural ability to reveal authentic emotion on screen. It was as if each role served as a catharsis, a means to transform sorrow into artistry. That sorrow found a unique outlet when Joaquin delivered a performance in To Die For. Cast alongside established names, he broke through with a role both unnerving and sympathetic. Critics marveled at his capacity to inhabit a troubled teenager's psyche so believably. Suddenly, the industry recognized him as more than just another young actor. He was an emerging powerhouse, a performer whose eyes flickered with depths not easily described. Yet, even with growing acclaim, he maintained a sense of distance from the typical Hollywood hustle. Always on the fringes, he seemed more at ease discussing the essence of a script than attending glitzy after-parties. Over the next few years, Joaquin chose roles that defied easy categorization. He had a penchant for characters whose minds existed in liminal spaces, haunted souls caught in moral dilemmas or grappling with existential crises. Even then, he showed little interest in courting public adoration. Many saw him as an outsider who simply happened to excel at the craft of acting. Directors, meanwhile, became enthralled by his willingness to push boundaries. It was rumored that on set, he would experiment with unscripted dialogue, unusual body language, and improvised emotional beats to find a deeper truth in each scene. Yet, the real turning point came when he portrayed Commodus in Gladiator. Suddenly, the global box office recognized him as a formidable screen presence. His performance as the twisted, power-hungry emperor earned him an Oscar nomination. Critics praised his ability to make the character both repulsive and pitiable, layering cruelty with vulnerability in a performance that enthralled viewers. It was this role that stamped Joaquin Phoenix onto the Hollywood A-list, setting the stage for a career that would soon become the stuff of legend and controversy. While many in his position would have parlayed Gladiator's success into blockbuster paychecks and safe, crowd-pleasing scripts, Joaquin veered in a different direction. He gravitated toward projects like Signs, We Own the Night, and The Village, each offering him a chance to explore different facets of humanity, from fear and faith to familial loyalty. In interviews, he spoke less about fame and more about the emotional journeys of the roles he took on. Colleagues described him as an actor driven not by vanity, but by the pursuit of something authentic, some glimmer of truth that lay hidden in every fictional narrative. This pursuit reached a new intensity when he prepared for the role of Johnny Cash in Walk the Line. Joaquin threw himself into the project with a determination that bordered on obsession, reportedly learning guitar from scratch and delving into Cash's tumultuous life. Friends and insiders whispered that he was straining under the emotional weight of inhabiting another soul so fully. Some worried that he was losing himself in the process, warning that method acting at this level could take a serious psychological toll. Nevertheless, the resulting performance was astonishing, showcasing a Joaquin Phoenix who had not only mastered Cash's distinct voice and mannerisms, but had captured the crux of his anguish, his faith, and his longing for redemption. With critical acclaim came awards and accolades. But just as the industry was prepared to crown him Hollywood's most versatile star, Joaquin took an abrupt turn that left everyone baffled. He embarked on a series of bizarre interviews, grew an unkempt beard, and announced that he was quitting acting to become a rapper. The documentary, I'm Still Here, captured this descent into chaos, or so it appeared to be. Viewers were left scratching their heads, unsure whether they were witnessing a legitimate breakdown or an elaborate performance art piece. The film revealed a Joaquin Phoenix who seemed determined to shatter his own public image, challenging the audience to confront its obsession with celebrity personas. Critics and fans alike debated the meaning of the spectacle. Some labeled it an elaborate hoax. Others saw it as a cry for help from an actor exhausted by the relentless grind of fame. In time, Joaquin admitted that I'm Still Here was a commentary on celebrity culture, a self-devised experiment in which he tested the boundaries between reality and performance. Yet, the cost of that experiment was high. Some in the industry found him erratic or unprofessional, uncertain if they could trust him to carry a film. He had effectively burnt a few bridges, though others admired his bravery in exposing the absurdities of fame. While his name still carried weight, doors that had been wide open began to close slightly. Projects that might have welcomed his participation hesitated, uncertain whether audiences would follow him after such a perplexing display. Rather than retreat, Joaquin doubled down, insisting that art should never be about making people comfortable. He wanted to probe the darker edges of the human psyche, unearth the raw nerves that people prefer to keep hidden. It was during this tumultuous period that he sought refuge in more unconventional scripts, content to work with directors who valued his restless spirit. Yet, fate had another chapter in store. In 2012, he starred in The Master, a performance that reminded Hollywood of his breathtaking talent. He portrayed Freddie Quell, a troubled drifter who latches onto a charismatic religious leader. The role demanded an unfiltered emotional intensity, a willingness to bare the soul's darkest corners. Joaquin delivered in a way that left both critics and viewers in awe. He had found a role that let him explore obsession, vulnerability, and desperation, echoing themes that had haunted him for years. Suddenly, the industry realized he was far from washed up. he had evolved into a performer of staggering complexity. A string of remarkable films followed, each demonstrating a different facet of his craft. Saw him embody a lonely writer who forms a deep attachment to an advanced operating system, exploring how technology might reshape human connection. You Were Never Really Here cast him as a traumatized veteran who rescues victims of human trafficking, offering a brutal look at violence and personal redemption. Joaquin reveled in these roles, each time submerging himself so completely that viewers almost forgot the man beneath the performance. Even so, controversies lingered. Journalists noted that his interviews remained unpredictable, sometimes curt and evasive, other times deeply reflective. Rumors spread of intense disagreements on set, though many who worked with him insisted these stories were exaggerated. One narrative that circulated was that he was consumed by a constant battle between his devotion to truth and the demands of an industry built on artifice. More than once, he publicly criticized the awards system, calling it a spectacle that pitted artists against each other for the sake of ratings and hype. Such blunt honesty didn't endear him to everyone in Hollywood, but cemented his status as a maverick, a figure who cared more about art than accolades. Then came the role that would change his life forever, Arthur Fleck in Joker. The announcement alone sparked debate, with fans divided over whether Joaquin Phoenix was the right fit to bring the clown prince of crime to life. Yet as production began, rumors hinted at an astonishing metamorphosis. Joaquin reportedly lost significant weight, developed a haunting new laugh, and spent countless hours studying clinical conditions that could manifest in the behavior of the Joker. On set, he was said to be unpredictable but mesmerizing, a presence that drew anxious glances from cast and crew alike, who couldn't help but admire his dedication. When Joker finally premiered, it was a firestorm. Critics hailed his performance as one of the most riveting in modern cinema, describing how he captured the anguish of a man cast aside by society. Some called it sensational, others irresponsible, arguing that the film tread into dangerous thematic territory. Yet, no one could deny the power of Joaquin's portrayal. He was raw, frightening, and heartbreakingly human, unearthing vulnerability in a character historically relegated to comic book villainy. For better or worse, he had turned the Joker into a mirror of society's ills, sparking heated debates about mental health, empathy, and violence. Awards season arrived like a whirlwind, and with it came a slew of nominations. Joaquin, never one to mince words, used his acceptance speeches to address issues ranging from environmental concerns to the systemic flaws within the film industry. Some found his speeches jarring, a break from the typical glitz and glamour of award shows. But for Joaquin, there was no going back to the polished script of public relations. He was determined to speak his mind, no matter how uncomfortable it made the room. Social media erupted each time he took the stage. Fans praised his authenticity, while critics chided him for hijacking glamorous events to deliver moral admonitions. Regardless, people were watching, and more than ever, they were talking about him. And then, at what felt like the peak of his career, rumors emerged of a mysterious, long-gestating project. Whispers hinted it would be more radical than I'm Still Here, more psychologically draining than Joker. Insiders claimed the script was so disturbing that major studios hesitated to back it, fearing it might ignite controversy on an unprecedented scale. Some speculated that Joaquin wanted total creative control, including the final edit, a demand rarely granted to actors. Yet, he seemed adamant that this film, whatever it was, would be the culmination of everything he had learned about performance, identity, and the human psyche. Behind closed doors, negotiations teetered on the brink of collapse. High-powered executives wrestled with the risk of alienating mainstream audiences. But the star power Joaquin now wielded proved impossible to ignore. He had become an actor whose presence alone could elevate a project to global attention, whose unpredictability was seen not as a liability, but a potential goldmine for publicity. People wanted to see what boundary he would push next, what taboo he might dare to shatter. During this period, those close to Joaquin noticed an undercurrent of tension. He appeared exhausted, mentally drained by the constant demands of fame and the weight of his own ambitions. In interviews, he hinted at a growing distrust of the Hollywood system, lamenting how easily art can be warped into a commodity stripped of meaning. He confessed that sometimes he thought about walking away from it all, retreating into a quiet life away from the cameras. Yet his obsession with uncovering deeper truths in performance kept him bound to the cinematic world. The push and pull between disillusionment and creative hunger had become the defining conflict of his life. All the while, speculation grew about his personal life. Paparazzi snapped photos of him at vegan rallies, environmental protests, and quiet nights out with close friends. He rarely addressed these images publicly, content to let tabloids spin their narratives. Yet, the man in those pictures seemed almost at peace, a far cry from the on-screen intensity he was known for. Those who knew him intimately described a gentle soul who relished the quiet moments, who found solace in animals and in nature, who wished the world could step away from empty spectacles and engage in real, meaningful conversations. Yet the biggest shock of all was still to come. Through a series of anonymous leaks, it emerged that Joaquin Phoenix had been assembling a makeshift documentary crew to follow him for months, capturing candid moments that range from private discussions about the acting process to full-blown existential rants about modern society. If the rumors were true, he intended to piece together these raw, unscripted segments into a film that would confront the audience on multiple levels, questioning not just the craft of acting, but the entire machinery of celebrity culture. Word was that he refused to sanitize the footage, even if it contained unflattering admissions or uncomfortable truths that might damage his reputation. Industry insiders panicked. The possibility of a no-holds-barred documentary threatened to pull back the curtain on Hollywood's carefully orchestrated illusions. Agents, publicists, and producers, all reliant on curated images, braced for impact. Could Joaquin truly be planning another cinematic disruption, this time with the potential to undermine the polished facade that studios fought so hard to maintain? Some claimed he was going too far, that the revelations this documentary might contain could place his career in jeopardy, alienate fans, or even spark legal battles. Others insisted this was precisely the kind of radical transparency the modern audience craved, a raw confrontation with authenticity in an era of stage perfection. Speculation reached a fever pitch, feeding the tabloids and dominating film blogs. Everyone wanted to know if Joaquin would actually release such a documentary, or if this was yet another performance piece, another subversive commentary on the media's obsession with behind-the-scenes drama. Instead of offering clarity, Joaquin remained silent, refusing interviews that might clarify the nature of the project. The tension built until even his most loyal fans were unsure whether they admired his courage or feared he might unravel from the pressure. Behind the chaos, a stark truth emerged. Joaquin Phoenix had become something more than just an actor. He was an icon of artistic rebellion, a figure whose every choice, whether comedic cameo or searing drama, carried the potential to alter public discourse. He had exposed hypocrisy, sparked debates on mental health, challenged the boundaries of cinema, and made mainstream viewers reckon with dark, uncomfortable truths. And whether you loved him or found his methods maddening, you could not deny the hold he exerted over the cultural imagination. Today, the question swirling through Hollywood is not whether Joaquin Phoenix will continue to challenge the status quo, but just how far he will go. Will his rumored documentary, if it even exists, dismantle the last illusions of celebrity mystique? Will he shock the world yet again with a performance that turns conventional storytelling inside out? Or will he retreat from the spotlight altogether, satisfied that he has pushed the limits of authenticity as far as they could go? The answers remain elusive, though one thing is certain. Each new chapter in Joaquin Phoenix's life seems destined to be more audacious than the last. In many ways, he embodies a paradox. He is the man who courts controversy yet pleads for compassion, who can sink into the darkest corners of human emotion, yet champion social causes with fervent optimism. This tension is precisely what fuels his enduring magnetism. He is a living testament to the power of art to reveal the rawest elements of the human experience: grief, triumph, desperation, hope, all braided together into stories that resonate long after the credits roll. Thus, we arrive at the crux of the story Hollywood never wanted you to see. Joaquin Phoenix as a restless visionary, unafraid to burn bridges if it means uncovering a deeper truth. His path has been lined with risk, heartbreak, and defiance. He has faced the abyss of personal tragedy, waged battles against an industry addicted to spectacle, and orchestrated stunts that blurred the line between performance and reality. In the end, each step guided him closer to an elusive sense of authenticity that most celebrities spend their entire careers avoiding. Whether you see him as a misunderstood genius or a provocateur reveling in chaos, there is no denying the impact Joaquin Phoenix has left on modern cinema. He reminds us that art, at its most potent, is a mirror held up to society, a reflection that can thrill us, alarm us, or force us to confront truths we would rather bury. And as he continues to evolve, forging ahead in unexpected directions, we are left with a single, haunting realization. The Joaquin Phoenix we see on screen is only a fraction of the story. For the rest, we must wander into the uncharted territories of his psyche, a place where illusions crumble, certainties vanish, and a fierce, untamed spirit blazes with unrelenting intensity. This is the secret that lies at the heart of Joaquin Phoenix's saga, that the boundaries of performance and reality are far more permeable than we dare to admit. That stardom can either entrap or liberate, depending on the artist's willingness to risk everything. In the case of Joaquin Phoenix, he appears willing to risk it all: his reputation, his comfort, and his place in Hollywood's pantheon, for the chance to shatter complacency and spark raw emotional truth. No matter what controversies swirl around him next, or how many awards he collects, that commitment remains the defining thread in his remarkable, unpredictable tapestry.